me here tonight. Stacy had asked me if I could come and give an update on intersection projects that we have going on. The way the city has planned out some of the intersection projects recommended in our transportation plan is it's our goal, once we get started with the first one, is to have one lined up once a year for construction. And I'm pleased to say that early next year we should have the Tilly Mill North Peachtree project going to construction. We're wrapping up the final touches on the design and the right-of-way, and after the budget is voted on this year, we expect we'll have the money to go ahead and start that project. And then the next one after that is Mount Vernon at Vermac. That would follow in behind Tilly Mill at North Peachtree. And then we have Shamley, Dunwoody, and Spalding. And that should carry us through the next 3 years or so. And then we have a few more that are in our transportation plan coming after that. Later this year, we'll start having public meetings and talking about the Shamley, Dunwoody, Peeler, North Shallowford, Vermac corridor and possible improvements for that area. While I'm here, just a general update on construction that is going on or imminent. Dunwoody Village Parkway, within the next week, the pavers should be coming in to do the final paving for that project. Once that's done, the roadway will basically be completed, and we will start landscaping, and then George Power will come in and put in the street lights. So we're very close to having that road put back together. While I'm talking about paving, we did pave some streets this summer. A lot of our money this year in our paving budget was tied up in Mount Vernon and Shamley Dunwoody. We're going to be paving about a mile of Mount Vernon Road, and I think about a mile and a half of Shamley Dunwoody from Roberts down to Cambridge Drive. We've been trying to time that project with DeKalb County Water. They're going to be replacing the water mains, and we have an agreement in place with them to go ahead and contract for that entire project, and then have the county reimburse us for the water main cost so that we can expedite that project. And we're very close to going out to bid on those two projects. We're going to have a lot of paving going on in the next year between those projects, and then in next year's paving plan, there's I think 27 streets that we have planned for paving next year. So it'll be a busy year next year from a construction standpoint with the Tilly Mill, North Peachtree, the Shamley, Dunwoody, and Mount Vernon corridors, and then the other paving we have on. We do have a few sidewalk projects. The Roberts Drive sidewalk is ready to go as soon as the contractor gets out there and starts working. We've approved that contract. And in the parks area, we will be starting paving the Dunwoody Senior Baseball parking lot in the next week or two. And the Dunwoody Nature Center front entrance, redoing the front entrance to make it accessible for wheelchairs and people with disabilities. That I believe is out to bid now. We'll be going to the City Council for approval soon. And if that covers it, I'll answer any questions anybody has. That's our intersection projects and upcoming construction. Yeah, I think I've got everything on the list here.
Michael, I have a question, because as you probably know, the Family Homeowners Association is also concerned with the panhandle part of Sandy Springs, which you know, of course, where it is. And with that as a comment, on the Roberts Drive sidewalks, I know they're going to be done to the city limits, but there then is a little gap between that and the end of the fire station that would really make it very functional. And what are your plans about it? Is there some intergovernmental agreement, or could there be, with Sandy Springs to make sure the sidewalk is continuous up so Davis Academy and all of those people out there would have access?
We've brought it to Sandy Springs' attention. We don't have an agreement in place or anything like that, but they are aware of it. And in the past, they've been pretty good about, when we have gaps like that or things that need to be completed, that they generally do those things. I don't have a timeline, but they are aware of it.
Thank you.
I have a question about the Tilly Mill North Peachtree Road intersection improvement. Currently, if you try to turn out of Laurelwood Road onto Tilly Mill, traffic is backed up all the way to Laurelwood Road. It takes forever to get to Peeler. And a lot of it is backed up from that left-hand turn from Tilly Mill onto North Peachtree. How is that intersection improvement going to help to move traffic on Tilly Mill Road so that you're just not sitting in a parking lot trying to get up Tilly Mill Road?
Yeah, the projects will be adding turn lanes in all the approaches to the Tilly Mill North Peachtree intersection. So that helps move cars more efficiently through the intersection. You know, I don't know that it will completely relieve all backups, you know, particularly when there's peak time with schools and the college, but we counted the traffic, we projected it out in the future, you model the existing and the proposed, and it does show a benefit. One of the biggest benefits is actually coming in the other direction with adding a light at Peeler at North Peachtree. That's going to make that work a lot better and be a lot safer. So, but adding and extending the turn lanes that are there will help move things more efficiently.
Thank you.
Fairly simple thing, it seems to me, is striping. I was driving down Peeler here a couple of days ago, and you've got one area when you go through Shannon Dunwoody, and it's nicely striped, nice white lines all over, and then you've got a complete area from there up to North Peachtree that's not striped at all. You've got other areas like up and down North Peachtree, which I guess will never get striped. They're dangerous at night.
On North Peachtree, are you talking about the area right out here?
Out here,
the
yeah, but that ain't gonna happen. I'm
Right.
concerned about Peeler.
Peeler, yes, the half reason Peeler has such a contrast there, we paved half of it a few years ago. I believe it's in the paving plan. If it's not next year, it's the year after that for resurfacing the other half of Peeler. We'll take a look at the striping. If it's not going to be resurfaced next year, we can refresh the striping.
You can't drive at night.
Right. And we are adding, one of the other things that you're probably noticing too is when we do repave these roads, we're adding the raised pavement markers, the little reflectors, so that helps a lot too at night.
Any update on the Brendan Drive sidewalk debacle?
Yes, we've been, as you know, we've been working through some issues with the state, and we're trying to make sure that, one, that we get a good final product, and two, that the city, because some of the things the state has proposed to do are not really what the city would normally do. We're trying to make sure we get as much as we can without having to spend any more city money than we have to. And then in the end of the day, it's really a GDOT project, and so we can ask and we can apply pressure, but ultimately they're making the final decision. So I can get with you. We've been sending updates to the residents, and I expect we'll send another update in the next couple of days with some definitive information.
Well, you have about 50 feet of sidewalk to be laid. That's about
Right.
it. So.
Right.
So if you see a pothole or a place where the sidewalk's broken or a place where there needs to be striping, what is the best way to make sure that that gets on your list?
Thank you for teeing that one up for me. We really like for people to use See-Click Fix. You can either go to the city's website and go to a part of the website that has See-Click Fix, and you enter the information there, or if you have a smartphone, you're out and about, you can take it's a free app you download, take a picture, The nice thing about it for us is it sends us a picture of the problem, and it also, if you're on your cell phone, it'll give us usually a pretty accurate location of where the problem is. So we can see what's going on a lot of times without even actually having to go out there and look at it before we can dispatch a crew. The other thing about it is it flows directly into our system that we use to manage our work orders for our crews. So you can call, you can email, and we take those and put them into the system, but there's an extra step there of taking that and then putting it in our work order system. If you use click fix, it goes right in, and then we manage it from there, and it doesn't get lost in transition.
Michael, can we get an update as far as North Peachtree Road, the crosswalk going over to Chestnut Elementary? There was a number of construction put in, and where are we on using that or not using that or changing that?
We've been waiting to make the full transition for the school kids walking. It's fully operable and in place now, but we've been waiting to transition the crossing guard at the school to that location in the anticipation that the school system was going to staff 3 crossing guards there. I know they've advertised. We're hearing that it's difficult to fill those positions. We've asked them for the information to be able to circulate it locally and maybe help try to fill those positions, but we haven't heard any update from the school system as to if and when they are going to have those positions filled. Probably due for another call to them to see where we go with that.
Another crosswalk intersection that was being entertained by the city was also one in front of my community, Dunwoody Club Forest, going over towards Vanderlyn. I believe you're going to put maybe possibly a little island. Is that in the queue, or is that next on the list after?
You're talking about the Stratham there, Stratham, Forest Springs. That's in the budget request that the council will be considering this month for next year. We, out of that pedestrian study that we completed earlier this year, we've asked for funding for 2 locations to upgrade the pedestrian facilities, that being one at Stratham and Mount Vernon, and the other being in front of Dunwoody Elementary School.
Lakeland Woods Court.
Yes. Jerry?
I'm going to ask another question. We tried to get a crosswalk on Tilly Mill Road, and we were working with you, and then it was supposed to go to the city of Doraville because Dunwoody North is divided by Tilly Mill Road. And then Doraville said that DeKalb County is in charge because where you suggested the crosswalk go, which was at Stonington Road, the street belongs to Doraville, and after the curbing, it's Dunwoody. And so I followed through with DeKalb County with Elaine Boyer's office. I was wondering if the city, who has more say than this one individual, has gotten anywhere with DeKalb County on getting a crosswalk there, a safe crosswalk, because people do not really stop at the crosswalk at Andover.
Right.
So, could you answer that, please?
Yes. As you know, that one's been going back and forth for a while, and we've been working with Doraville because it's actually their right of way, and we were trying to put an intergovernmental agreement in place for us to build a crosswalk. In exchange, they provide their K-9 unit for the city to use. And that went back and forth for a while. My understanding from the city manager, Chief Grogan, is that we've recently gotten some movement on that, and that everybody has agreed on the terms of the agreement. And so now it'll be moved forward to be executed. And once that's done, then the city will have to allocate the funding to put that crosswalk in, and then we can go ahead and do that.
if you do get the funds to do that, as a follow-up question, are you going to put in something that has like a flashing light? There's a really fancy one for a crossing on Mount Vernon, because obviously the signs that are at Andover are not effective. So what will be put there to make that a safe and actually a safe pedestrian crossing?
There'll be the plan was to put in a flashing beacon, very much like the one that we just recently put in front of Chestnut.
Great, thank you.
Michael, I was going to ask on the North Peachtree Tilly Mill project, how big of a project is that compared to, say, Dunwoody Village Parkway? And how long, what's the time frame for completion on that?
It's a good question. It's a bigger project overall. There's another component that the county is also providing funding for. We're going to go in and replace the water lines there too. So it will, I think we're looking at a 12 to 15 month project, if I recall. It is bigger than the Parkway. In fact, the 3 projects I mentioned that will be going on next year are all going to be the 3 probably biggest and most complex road projects that the city has done to date. So, it will go on for, those projects will take a while to complete, replacing all the water main and then all the road work that's needed to go with that, the drainage, everything.
So it'll be 12 to 15 months. I mean, people better understand that intersection may be slowed down even a little bit more during that period of time.
Yeah, and we, with all these projects, we have to maintain traffic. We're not going to be shutting anything down, but there will be times when, there may be lane closures or minor delays, but the contractors will be required to put a traffic plan in place that we'll review before they start. And of course, we've started putting in liquidated damages on some of our projects, on all of our construction projects, to have that extra motivation for the contractor to be completed as quickly as possible.
Quick question. I know it's not Dunwoody, but I assume you get emails about it. The Northridge Bridge project, when is that due to be completed, and how many more lane closures?
I don't have the answer to that. I actually don't get any emails about it. So I don't.
That's another year.
Yeah, it's not.
If you can figure out what it's going to look like when it's done, you get a prize.
Michael, I have a question. Non-roads, intersections, anything to do with that, has to do with parks. Several years ago, we all remember, I think everyone in this room, when they had the parks master plan put out for vote and so forth. But part of that discussion all along was, as far as play fields at Brook Run, to be designed and worked in coordination with the middle school if possible, so that the area that they have for 2 play fields could be somehow put as part of a master play field plan. I happen to be, and part of my work with the Rotary, I'm the liaison now to the middle school. And the principal, Mr. Heppenstall, asked me 2 weeks ago, where does that stand? Because they're very much desirous of doing that, and they would like to have their play fields be used by the community. And I just wondered, where does that whole process exist about working out something in conjunction with Brook Run? They may be ready to move faster than we are at Brook Run.
Yeah, I think the city council discussed that at the retreat earlier this year, and it's something that our parks manager, Brent Walker, is working on. I think a few years ago we started the discussion, and then I think there was some turnover in some of the leadership at the middle school or at the district level, and but that's on his list of things to do between now and the end of the year, is to get those discussions going again and see if we can move something forward.
That would be great, because at least at the principal level, at the school level, they're very much supportive of it. I don't know about Nancy Jester, if she were still there, would probably know at the county level.
I can comment, because I was the chair of Peachtree at the time that was all going on. And it was basically, it was just between rechartering and everything that's going on with the park. We were kind of told to just take a step back by the city, because I haven't attended some meetings.
So it wasn't that the county school system said, no.
No, the school, we were all really interested, but it was just an issue with the.
It doesn't matter picking it up and making it happen.
Yeah, it was just a whole issue with parts of the city.
Anybody else? Yeah.
Earlier, you talked a little bit about school crossing guards, and you had put in a request, I guess, with the school system to add some at locations that don't currently have any. Is the intersection of Vermac and Womack one of those locations you requested a crossing guard for?
No, they were all at Chestnut. They had, well, when we met with them in the spring, we were under the understanding that they had 2 crossing guards. It turns out they had 2 positions, and one of them they were having a hard time keeping filled. They had 2 existing, and we suggested that a 3rd was needed. And right now, the last discussions we have with them, they really only have one. They have 3 positions funded, but only one of them staffed. And so that's the only one we really, location we talked to them about crossing guards.
What do you have to do to warrant a crossing guard in a particular location? For example, Vermac, Womack, next to the high school.
Yeah, the school system manages, pays, and makes the determinations on where they have crossing guards. They did, when we went to them with the issue at Chestnut, they did agree that that's something that they could and should provide, but then they haven't been able to fill the position.
Larry's got an answer on that, because we've been involved in that.
Larry, did anything?
I'm not sure I have an answer, but I have something to say about it. The general purpose of crossing guards in most counties, and it is in the Camp County school system, is they're funded by the school system. And normally, they do not provide a crossing guard at middle schools or high schools. And the theory behind that is based upon the kids that go there are mature enough to understand the signals that are there. If that makes sense to Bill's question. Now, in regard to what Bill has asked, I'm trying to be sure I say the right thing. There was a tentative agreement brought together from a presentation I did before the mayor and the city council that they would do one at Vermac and Womack for the high school, and as all of the things filter down of what are we going to do, what are we going to do, how are we going to do it, who's going to fund it, and all this stuff. And I met with Chief Grogan, and we got all of those little tidbits out there, and it was totally agreed that the Cobb County school system would fund that for a 2-month period. They would fund for me to go up there after I did the crosswalk at Dunwoody Elementary School to do it at the high school for 30 minutes in the morning, and then in the afternoon when I finished it, Dunwoody Elementary School would go up there for 30 minutes in the afternoon to ease the traffic with the buses. And in all due respect, I think we got messages that said we were going to do that. Well, somewhere along the line, and I'm not throwing rocks at any particular window, but somewhere along the line, that funding was not available after we decided to make that 2-month period. And the Cobb County school system decided that they could not fund that. So that program, and I'm looking at the mayor, but if you were looking for something to say, how did that project come over, I think Chief Grogan is the one that can answer that about what had happened to the agreement to fund it and then the agreement that they couldn't fund it. So
Larry, can you give us an idea of what that funding amount for 2 months would be?
You want to hear the real thing about school crossing guards?
No, I just
I mean, if you want to hear something about, well, and it's a question that came up about the Chestnut thing. And John Hennigan's been deeply involved in it. The problem with school crossing guards in most communities is it's a period of time in the morning, like 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock at Dunwoody Elementary School. And I know Jim understands this. And it's a time in the afternoon from 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock, and that happens to be what it is. That time moves around based upon the school system. You can't find people who have that kind of freedom to do in the morning and the afternoon. For example, I restore old cars, and it screws up my day to do it because I gotta get dirty, I gotta get clean, I gotta come back. Unless you pay them a wage that's comparable for the aggravation that they're putting through, okay? And let me digress for just a
Well,
minute.
I know, but it's a long night, and we asked just.
I mean, if you want to hear about the school system.
No, 10 seconds or less.
Okay, if you don't want to hear.
I'll add one thing to what Larry said, and this has come out through a lot of the discussions we've had at Chestnut, is that, and Larry can attest to this where he's located, is that, and especially in Dunwoody, a lot of locations we're asking these crossing guards to work at, it's not, they're not quiet streets. There's, North Peachtree has 10 or 12,000 cars a day on it. So in some ways, I think some crossing guards feel like they're taking their life in their own. There's some risk involved in it. So I think to what Larry's saying, it's difficult hours. It doesn't pay a lot, and then in some of our locations, there's a little bit of risk involved.
Robert's drive too. Okay. Any other questions? No? Okay. Michael, thank you for your time.